Well, welcome, guys. In case you're not sure where you are, this is Class Dojo with elementary assessment. We are going to be looking at the Class Dojo learning management system and how we can incorporate some assessment into that at your respective levels. I'm going to be kind of a little bit all over the place today with grade level content, even though Class Dojo is really looking at our K through 2. We will certainly be looking at some content and or tools that can be used above that, because as many of you are going to be working with perhaps multiple grade levels or grade bands, and we just want to make sure that you've got something that you can use across a variety of areas. So as always, I am here accompanied by, well, I was getting ready to say, oh, there she is. Accompanied by Colleen Ryan. She's going to be working the chat. There she goes, giving a wave, and probably answering all the questions appropriately when I mess up. So, again, if this has been an awesome experience for you at the end of this, make sure you tag me, AOE Will for Twitter. And if it's terrible, then can look at Colleen's. You can hit with hers. Just so you know, this is being recorded, so that it'll be available for participants who were not able to attend today. So this is being recorded, and I am going to be looking for some interaction, some feedback as we go through this. Whether you do that verbally or in the designated areas. So if you are on a phone, be ready to hit that unmute button and jump in as we have opportunity. And if you're on a device, a laptop or what have you, you're welcome to also jump in verbally, or you can type as we get into those areas. So, all right, well, let's get to it, man. I don't know about you guys, but this has been quite a day today. Saw the new numbers for Hamilton County and was like, oh my goodness, we are not going to be in phase 3 in any way, shape, or form if we keep up with this foolishness. So, um, all right, assessment with Class Dojo, getting back on topic here. So, this is a question that I want us to kind of be thinking about as we're going through this. And so, we're not going to come to this one right away. We're going to let it ruminate kind of in the back of your mind. But as we consider using Class Dojo in lieu of Canvas or in addition to Canvas or even with Google Classroom, really one of the things that I've been thinking about as an instructional coach is, we've got a lot of work that we've already put in um, virtually since March, and perhaps even before that, depending on how well you've been blending technology before we had to transfer to COVID style teaching. And really, we don't want to throw all of that away. We want to be able to continue to leverage using some of that. We also want to be able to maybe revise and upgrade some of the work we've been doing to make it more applicable for use in a remote or virtual setting. This is especially going to be necessary as we consider opening in phase 2 or perhaps even moving into phase 1 in the near future, where learning will be, if not partially remote, then entirely remote, kind of bringing us back to that March 16th scenario there. So again, we'll be coming back to this one. Going to be looking into Class Dojo's tools and really kind of thinking about how do we break them, hack them, make them into something that's going to work for all of us. So the first thing we're going to look at is the built-in tool, the Class Dojo portfolio. We're not going to spend a ton of time here because this is week 3 of the tools and tech training. And so if you've been following along week 1 and week 2, then we've done a lot of this already. And so we're not going to spend a lot of time here, but I do want to have an opportunity for you to take a look at this. And by the way, there is a bit.ly link down here in the bottom left. We're going to be jumping onto that quite a bit. So that's going to pop up on several slides, but go ahead and type that in if you can. It's bit.ly / and then it's Dojo Assessment. The D and the A are both capital, and you do need those. So it is case sensitive. If you'll open another tab and do that, what you're going to find if you do that correctly is that this is going to open up. Oh, good. I see some people, or at least a person already in here, and some others joining. We're going to be looking at this to kind of give us a place to record our thoughts, our thinkings, our notes, our comments, our questions, all of the work that we're doing. And we're going to be going through each section, kind of looking at that. So this is the portfolio section. So as we go into it, we'll have a designated moment to pop back over here and come back to it.
Hi, Arthur.
Yes.
Okay, this is Charlene, your favorite novice here.
What's up, Charlene?
How do I get out of Zoom, be able to see you? Because I'm working on my Mac. My school computer is now doing an update. Wasn't that convenient?
Of course it is. So yeah, you won't probably necessarily be able to see both. What you'll want to do is your Zoom will be a separate app in your Mac, probably maybe another I'm assuming it's down in the toolbar for your Mac. It's going to have that little zoom icon with
Uh huh.
the white camera thing. You're
Yeah.
going to want to pop over to Safari or Chrome or whatever you've got installed, and then just get yourself a fresh tab to open that up, and then you'll kind of have to flip back and forth. So I will be extra clear about when we are using this
Okay.
page that says Dojo Assessment and when we are looking at my screen. Okay, so I'll
Okay.
try to be a little
Thank
more
you.
clear with that. Yeah, no problem. So I'm going to jump over. I'm looking at my screen now, and I'm going to jump over to um, the ClassDojo side of things. So right now, what I'm doing is looking at a teacher account on the portfolio side. You can see I've assigned 3 assignments: a test video, a test drawing, and a test picture. Now, during any of this stuff, if you want to try this out from a student perspective, I'm happy to throw that up on the screen. I I'm not certain how long this will take, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this content exploring it since we've done that so much, but we'll play around with some of the other tools as we get into those. Just so that you see, just quick reminder, this is what it looks like from the name of the assignment versus the description. So there's not that. Kids haven't really done anything because I haven't had them do that. Now, the part that I want to kind of focus on here is you can see I'm signed in as student 2 to that same class right here, where student 1, 2, and 3. And I've got 2 of those assignments showing up here. They're arranged chronologically, and I can hit view all to see the third one. So this we've talked about quite a bit. How do you do work? How do you turn in work and that thing? But I want to take a look up here. This is a set of tools that we've mentioned, but haven't really spent a ton of time with. And the more that I've been exploring and learning about um, ClassDojo, I've really been noticing that these are some tools that have some power that's not readily available in the assignment portion. In particular, this one, the file. So if you look here in the file one, when I click on that, it allows a student to upload a file. For all intents and purposes, it doesn't really matter which one you pick out of this because the interface is the same. If I pick the image, you can see here I've got one that I was just testing out. Close that out. You can drop files here, paste, or browse, and the browse just opens up your computer or your device's storage and allows you to place that in there. But you definitely can just copy paste as well. So that was what you saw earlier. I took a screenshot of a different screen. In fact, I could do that right now, kind of living in the matrix a little bit, and then paste here. You can see, nope, there we are, right? It's got my screen that I'm pasting right onto that, and you can upload that. And the same thing is true on the other side. If you go into the file and just hit file, again, dropping files, pasting or browse. So it looks identical. So when I bring that up, I really want us to be thinking about, again, that question that we have ruminating in the back of our minds about the existing work that you're doing. How might we be able to use something like this to bring some capability into ClassDojo that is not currently present? Because remember, if we have, from the teacher side of things, when you create that activity, you kind of have to designate what you want your students to be able to do. And the drawing and the photo one definitely have some flexibility. Going to the student one here, I'll go into the drawing. You can see here on my end as a student, if you're trying to, determine my level of understanding for, some basic math or perhaps some conversation, you can certainly do that here.
Never mind.
Just a second. I'm going to go ahead and see here what we can check about that. Okay. Um, just to help keep that running a little bit. You can certainly go ahead and, draw your responses. I've got a touch screen here, or I could use my mouse. I can also give a text response here with your text box. And you can even add some audio down here in the bottom right with the use of the microphone. So we have some tools and some capability here that are pretty robust. And I'm not going to submit this, just go ahead and close that. And then even as we move into the video portion, and For this, I am going to take a moment and turn off my video so that it will show this correctly. So when you go in here, hey, here I am. I can go ahead and start that video, and it just gives you a quick countdown. Oh, there we go. We're straight into it, and you can turn that in, retake it, and submit that assignment. Again, not going to save that. But as we consider what our role of instruction looks like, there may be times where these options, and there is a fourth one, which was the submitting with text until the fifth option of worksheet gets added. You can add text, but again, that one's pretty limited. As we consider what we need from our students, it may not fit neatly into those boxes. Colleen has done a great job in her class showing what it looks like, some capability for kids to do work on pencil and paper at home, and then to take a picture of that and submit that. And so when we have that, that's a really cool tool. And I want you guys to think as we go through these tools, what might we be able to do when it comes to multi page or unit level assignments or more robust assignments that may not necessarily lend themselves well to turning in one of these features, but how can we still assess those, assess our student understanding, even with using ClassDojo, or even in spite of, I guess you might think, because it doesn't give us some of those things that we are maybe used to if we were looking at Canvas or Google Classroom. So I'm going to flip back over here, and I'm looking at the Dojo and assessment screen now. And so if you're flipping back and forth, this is the time to switch over from that. But I want you to go ahead, and as we are in here, I've got a spot here for you to put your name and then the pros and cons and any questions that you may have. I want us to take just 2 minutes now, find a spot somewhere on this area, and go ahead and give a little feedback here, because what I want us to do is think, where are we looking? I mean, I was very transparent here on mine with Miss My Google Classroom, but let's just take a moment here and see what we get for some of that feedback, and then we're going to move into some of the other tools.
How is everybody able to do that?
Was that Laverne speaking?
Yes.
So are you seeing this screen right now with the Dojo and assessment Google Doc? Oh, and I think she went on mute. If you can see this, what I'm going to do is flip over to the slide so you can see the bit.ly. It's right here.
Arthur, I've also put the link in the chat box for people to just click on.
Perfect, great. So that's what we're typing in a fresh browser, Laverne, maybe in Safari or Chrome or Firefox, whatever you've got. And once you type that in, it should bring you to this page. Yeah, so Sarah brings up one, right? She says, unsure of the features, probably more limited than Google Classroom. Sarah, I definitely encourage you to check out some of those previous videos from our PD sheet. I'm going to jump over here and show that. We've got some of the more introductory ones here with ClassDojo for elementary relationship formation. That's Colleen there. I've got some over here. So we've got some videos that you can go back and see to get more accustomed and familiar with those features as we go in. But yeah, definitely in some ways, it is more limited to Google Classroom as far as its ability to interface natively with the G Suite, right? And that's one way that's where we're going to come into that as one of our first topics here. We got Kayla for the first time, seems student friendly. Yeah, Kayla, likewise for you, double check that sheet there. I'm going to go ahead and just grab that link actually and see if we can have that ready for you guys there. Except for my first time user here. That's a big ugly web HTML or URL, but there it is. So we've got some of there. Mary asking, are we using this in lieu of Canvas with K through 2? And in case you haven't seen that, Hamilton County's been sending out some guidance alongside parents and teachers and students with what is going to be available. And I'm going to jump into another document real quick and just show you some of the imagery that's been going out with that. Let's go here. And this is one of the images that's been getting shared. And so you can see pretty clearly here how Hamilton County has positioned ClassDojo. Let me pull here. So I don't know how well you're able to see that, but what you should be seeing is classes, lessons, assignments, connections, K through 2 ClassDojo, 3 through 5 Canvas, and truly it's really 3 through 12, because here once you get 6 through 12, you now are looking at Canvas as the primary LMS. I will restate what Dr. Johnson has said on the air and in several meetings, and that is that Canvas is and ClassDojo are the strongly recommended learning management systems for their respective grade bands. However, as teachers, you can certainly do what you need to do and use what you need to use, but with the caveat that it may it may not have any support there.
Arthur, with Dojo, I had the problem, I used this last year for my teaching online. And with Dojo, the problem I had was the video links were too short. So I would record videos on YouTube and make an agenda that I used with my students with all the video links, and they had to complete the agenda for their daily work.
Are you guys hearing me now? Hopefully so. It's not saying I'm muted. Running into a little bit of a technical issue here, but I think we can push through. But yeah, I heard, and I don't remember who that was speaking, but yes, you do get some of the links. Let me flip over to that, and then we're going to push on a little bit. What you find is that as the students start to go and record, and I think I've got my camera off here, what I believe she's saying is that when they hit record here, they don't have enough time to give those video links. Is that right, or are you talking more on the teacher end of things?
Sorry, this is Tiffany. My work computer shut down on me, so I had to use my husband's computer. So it says Jason.
Oh, okay, not a problem, please.
So what I used was I let the students use the portfolio because I haven't had a first grader talk more than 8 minutes yet on recording their videos.
Gotcha.
Because they get shy. But as far as for actual lessons, I would have to create an agenda with all the links because I had a lot of night shift parents who were doing this at night with their kids. So I put all my videos in YouTube. That way the videos could be longer than 8 minutes.
Okay, so you're referring to that 8-minute limit. And I'm going to just jump on to Colleen's account here. So it sounds like you and Colleen maybe had a similar method where you would, here you go, where you might put several options. This was information that was for parents and students there. She had a weekly overview, so maybe that's kind of the agenda that you were referring to. And then this is how the kids had to return things. They went and took their, whatever the final or accumulating task, and then that would be what they would return in on Dojo. But just to give you a quick peek here, this is some of Colleen Ryan's work with her students there, showing that weekly calendar of tasks. That may be what you were talking about, Tiffany, something in that.
Yes, I did a daily agenda on Google. Very similar. I just did daily. That's the only difference.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, and then she had this daily piece for really cool for the families to be able to look at and see, oh, same theme that I'm using now. You know, kind of being able to aim at parents and such and show them that. All right, so I'm going to back out of here and go back into you guys' comments because I did want to double check and make sure I didn't miss picture of their drawing and then record their voice and narrate their picture. Kayla, that's a great question. What I think you're saying here is, could I, for example, upload a picture of my drawing and then narrate over it? What my understanding of that is right now is no. However, what I could do is use the student view to take a picture. Say my teacher had assigned this as the task. I could take the picture of my work, but I don't know that there's a way to narrate over the top of that. So Colleen, do you have anything you want to add into that piece?
I am 92% sure that if, once they take a picture, there is an option for the student to record a retell of it.
Oh, all right. Well, let's just take this picture then and see what happened. 3, 2, 1. Here I go. Oh, you were absolutely right. I've got a caption here. I've got a microphone over here on the side, and then I've got some other features. So I will take Colleen's 92% over my 99% any day. So that is we got there. So I'm going to not save that piece. Thank you, and good question too for that there. All right, so I'm going to come back to this a little bit as we move in, but I am definitely curious real quick to see what age group. And then the $500 question again is really coming into this with Google Classroom. I see one from Lisa Millard here saying, if you have a project, do you have to narrate the project, or can you also link? Yes, you can absolutely link to things inside. And if you saw how that was linked on Colleen, she had linked to a Google slide as well as Google Doc. But the issue becomes then, how do I turn that in, right? If I give a student a Google Doc or something, how do I extract that information for assessment purposes? So that's what we're going to come into here. So we're going to go and take a look at what that may look like here. So this is the G Suite. G Suite is Google's plethora of tools that they have available. And we're pretty familiar, I think, in Hamilton County with using docs, slides. It's kind of the Google's version of PowerPoint. We don't see a lot of usage with sheets, and sheets and forms are pretty intimately connected when you get into using those. And I wanted to show you some things because as we go through this, really what I want you to do is kind of break your traditional thinking about how you might assess students over this time period. So you can see I'm doing a lot of jumping back and forth. Here's one that I wanted to show you. One of the cool things about, and this is just maybe a pretend, I don't know, 3 through 5 is really my bread and butter for standards, but I'm imagining this is a late K, early first grade type assessment that you would have here. Using the method that I've seen Colleen do, you might say, okay, I maybe don't need all of these, right? Maybe I only need a few answers for a student to come back with. And in that case, the portfolio tools are pretty robust. I can give them a couple of questions. Hey, you go ahead and draw those responses and even narrate that. If you wanted something a little more, I don't know, we just say like something that's kind of fun, what you might see in the younger grade levels pretty typically is those coloring sheets that correspond to answers correspond to a color. If you guys know what I'm talking about, like I might get a certain response and then, oh, if you got this, you color that green, or if you got this, you color that blue. Well, in this one, I've used the conditional formatting, which is found right here, to set this up where you might be able to, I don't know, 1 + 6 is 7. And so now you can see a changed color, right? Here's another one, 9 - 3. Hopefully you can do the math correctly here. And as you go through and start to fill these in, you start to see this making a pattern. And even the ones that aren't, like this one, for example, it just turns white on that. But as kids start to answer that question or these series of questions, they might start to make a shape, right? And so they're like, whoa, what? You know, I'm getting it. By the way, I'll type in a wrong one just so you can see what happens here. And it just is like nothing. So we'll go ahead and do that. But as they start to complete that and they like, oh, hey, look, my teacher made a smiley face or something. You can imagine that you could say, hey, as one of your ClassDojo questions, what was the shape or what was the image that was revealed when you finished your pattern, when finished your assignment? And so now, even though the kid maybe can't turn in this Google Sheet in ClassDojo easily, they can still show or demonstrate that they were able to get to that assignment and be able to show some competency, some mastery. So that's one example. Another one here I wanted you guys to see is in the forms, to be thinking about some alternatives here. You can see, let me move this over a little bit. So I just got this sample form here, right? And you guys probably already know you can change the background and theme and all of that, but that's not our goal. There's a lot of different ways that you can format questions to get you kind of your kids and for you at a particular goal. Forms are nice because they very easily generate a website address. You can do it through the preview function, or you can get it in the settings. And you can put that website address straight into right here. You can put that into your school story and it becomes hyperlinked right there. And if your kids are on an app, such as an iPad using the ClassDojo app or anything else, then it will even change your hyperlinks into clickable links in the portfolio assignments as well. And we've talked about that quite a bit in some of the previous videos. So here you can put your links, and so you could be, okay, well, here's a link to this form. And so the kid's figuring it out, answering it. But again, thinking about alternative ways to assess, what if you wanted to get something a little more creative and think perhaps like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we did some type of a digital breakout, right? Then it doesn't really necessarily matter what the kid puts in here for each individual question, so long as when they get to the end and they hit submit, they can get either the final answer or the final product, right? And so one of the ways that people do that is with the short answer text. What I'm going to do is go into, and you see I've selected short answer. There is an option down here called response validation. A very cool option for things where I can really focus in and require one particular answer, especially if it's a number. So you might have a question, something like, I don't know, what is the sum of, 8 and 2, just to really press the vocabulary a little bit. So the student has to type in a number as the response. Obviously, you want that number to be 10. And if they're not getting it, you could say, whoops, we'll try again, something like that. And I don't want it to be greater than, I want to go ahead and make that equal to. All right, so my number must be, oh, now I got to do it again. So I'm just going to say, oops. So my number has to be equal to 10. So let me show you what that looks like on the kid's side. So now they're taking it and it says, what is the sum of 8 and 2? I put in 8. Now, as I move to the next question, it says, no, that's not correct. And even if I go and answer every other question, when I try to submit, it won't allow me to because this is not correct. And so once I hit 10, oh, I'm okay. And it doesn't really matter what these other ones are for the purpose, then I'm all right. But anything else will not let you advance. Now that's important because, and I'll leave here, Google allows you to put in a response at the end, confirmation message. Your response has been recorded is the default one. But imagine if you said, congratulations, tell Miss Ryan or tell Mr. Williams, the secret password is chicken legs, or something like that. We always did chicken nuggets. The password is pineapple. And so now, as the kids have finished this and turned it in, they will see this at the end. Once again, let's go into the kids' view. And we don't necessarily care what those other ones are, but we do need that one to be correct. And I submit. Now I get the password as pineapple. This might be a way to say, oh, now back in ClassDojo, the assignment doesn't necessarily require me to see all of the work you did to solve all those problems. All the assignment might just ask me is, what was the password? And I can turn in, oh yeah, I can tell Miss Ryan or Mr. Williams or whoever, the password was pineapple. And that would be validation enough for me to be able to, just for practice, like, oh, I understand that you were able to get to that. So that works not just with numbers, by the way. You could put something like text. It will allow that. And if I had something like maybe older students, I'm thinking maybe 3rd grade, what is the capital of Tennessee? And then your text would be Nashville. Now, I will say when you get into text, it does get a little trickier because it has to be exact. So if you're going to do that, you're going to need something like a message like spelling counts. So if they type in Nashville with a capital N, it works. But if they type it in with a lowercase n and try to proceed on, it's not correct. It's not correct there. So we do need the capital, and then as you move on, then we're okay. So as we think about that, it really provides some options. And oh yeah, by the way, of course, you can also embed videos into these as well. If you weren't familiar, you can just over here, you've got a lot of options. One is add video. And if you've got a URL for a video that you've made on YouTube, you can go ahead and post it, or you can search for any of the other ones there. But I'm really envisioning more of something like, I don't know, maybe this practice YouTube that I made. Oh, my computer's not liking all the tabs. All right, well, I certainly don't have that one copied anymore, but maybe let's see if we come over here.
Hey,
Yeah,
Arthur, there was a question.
sure, go ahead.
They asked, can you put an image for could you use an image for the password instead for kindergarten, since like typing letters is harder?
Okay, so what I heard you say was, sorry about that, guys. Can I put in an image as an answer? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's what she meant. Well, I guess she says, can you put an image for kindergarten instead of a password? And
Oh, in the response. No, you can't. And that one I feel like this confirmation message, you don't get that. However,
you could use
I'm,
emojis.
yeah, you could use emojis. I'm thinking that maybe you might be able to make a conditional or response in this form, and then it wouldn't allow you to go to the next section unless, that's a little trickier, unless you got the answer right. So I'm trying to think, like, you have this other option for people that may not have seen this before, where you can actually make sections, and then kind of like a choose your own adventure one, you can have, depending on the answer, let's get rid of this. Depending on the answer to something, you can then go and see that. So here it says go to section based on answer. What I don't know is that if it will allow you to do the conditional formatting in addition to that. And no, it doesn't. It doesn't seem like the response validation is available once I turn that on. So yeah, that would be a great feature to be able to do, to say like, I want to show this image instead. Now, one workaround would be if I know that I've got that image on my Google Drive or on a website, what you could do, and let's see if this will work. Maybe you want the password to be pineapple. And we've got a great pineapple here. It takes us just a second to get the actual, go to the, I want to see the image in a new tab. Okay. So now I've got the straight up image here without the website association. You could perhaps go into that confirmation one and then say this website. Now, the question is, will this be hyperlinked? I don't know. And I don't know that there's any kids that are going to want to copy and paste, particularly as a kindergartner. But if that did work, then you could go ahead and click on that and see what the image of the password was, if your kids were accustomed to that. So just some more options to be thinking about. But again, I just wanted you to be, us to be really thinking, okay, as we consider different ways to assess kids virtually that aren't necessarily just a multiple choice or drag and drop. So I'm going to come back to the, and if you're on a phone, I'm switching over to the Dojo and assessment doc again. And so I'm back here on this where it says G Suite tools. I'd like take a second here, and we're not going to spend as much time as we did last time. Go ahead and scroll down a little bit and start thinking, like, where are you currently using G Suite? What ideas does this give you where you might be able to leverage that camera function or the copy paste function, or maybe some of the lesser known or lesser used tools that we use every day, like Google Sheets or Google Forms. How could we do that? So I'm going to leave this open just for a little bit and let you guys comment in here and see if we can generate some ideas to help each other. While that's going on, I'm going to skim back through the chat a minute here. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, I just scanned back through the chat. Looks like Colleen was helping us out. Thank you very much. Forms and done a breakout. Yeah, scavenger hunt. And full transparency, Lisa works at my school and she's pretty awesome. So I'm going to close off one of these. I think it's still trying to use my camera. Okay. Okay, use forms to get parent input as an exit ticket, absolutely. One of the nice things about forms is it does give you individualized data responses where you can go ahead and select that it requires a Google input or such as your Chrome login or whatever else. So with our addition of class links as the automatic single sign-on tool, kids should be able to get logged in instantly as long as they can remember one password. And then that'll take them as they go into the form. It can collect that email address and give you some individualized data, even if they don't have their name. So that's great. Whereas can students do without their parents? Kayla with the strong questions here. Yeah, and that's really the goal. I'll let Colleen speak a little bit more about this in just a second, but what she was really strong in was making sure that as much as possible, her kids were able to, her students, she's a kindergarten teacher, able to do this work independently. Again, we did at the end of last year have the advantage of being able to kind of prep our students, right? We had 3/4 of work and of relationships, of established routines. And so that was able to take and use that as we get into this school year. Really be thinking like that's going to be huge to make sure that you prep your students as quickly and efficiently as possible to be able to work at home. But the reality is for our K through twos, we are going to need parents, right? We're going to need some parental assistance. And so that was where Colleen's messages directly to the parents through the class story, giving them the resources they need to help support their children is also really important. So I'm going to just answer this one close, really a little cavalierly with the yes. So absolutely, it's possible, but it's going to require some thinking and some prep on the front end. Colleen, did you want to jump in on that with your experience?
About the harder for without the parents.
Yeah, can they do this on their own? Can they submit this work on their own?
So yes, so with second grade, most definitely. I mean, Arthur, you saw it firsthand when you handed to your daughter and said, "Hey, figure out what I'm asking you to do." And what she's in first grade, and
She was a first grader at the time, yeah.
very visually able to see. For kindergarten, what I did to really make them more independent is when I had one of my first two Zooms, I demonstrated. So like I always create a fake student, Mr. Bicklesnickle, and I showed them like, okay, I'm going to scan my, QR code, or I'm going to use however the login method you choose. And then from there, being able to, it showed them and it helped them a lot. I also, and I was just thinking about this, I had created already pre-recorded videos that kids could watch to help teach them. So I will put that into a document and share it on that same PD sheet so you all can use those videos to show parents and to show students what it looks like on their end.
Thank you, Colleen. Yeah, and the ClassDojo set of repository of videos that are already in there are pretty strong as well, and they really walk you through depending on whether you're a parent or teacher, and they'll let you, it's like, okay, here's how you do various things. All right, let's jump back into this because I want us to not spend all day in the G Suite. We also have some other tools that I want us to look at, quiz style tools. And again, we still got that same thing here. So these are some quiz style tools that you may be familiar with already, right? Kahoot's pretty popular, game-based platform that it's kind of like trivia or a game show or whatever. They do have some new tricks and I wanted to make sure to show that to you. Quizlet is one I used to use a lot back in the day for its flashcard study feature. It does have a live option, so that gives it a little bit of that Kahoot style feel, and so you can have that. And then quizzes is I really just like this one because it's like Kahoot with the questions on the kids' screens. So that's been one of the big issues with using Kahoot is they have to be able to see a central location. Previously, now we do have, again, some new tricks, but they always had to kind of look up at the projector or the television or whatever. But now, with some of these other ones, that's not the case. Nice when you can use that self-paced one as well. And there's a few things in here that I want to show you that aren't necessarily some of the tools and the choices that jump right out as you're using them. So this is one that I'm in now. This is Quizlet, by the way. And I did not create this. I found a world geography of North America Quizlet. And let me just back up so you guys can kind of see what this would look like. This is what, once you sign in, it will let you, this is your view. So you can see it does, like so many sites, have a freemium option where you get the free stuff, but you can pay for more. And then all the sets that you created or are using, you usually will set those over here. So I create a folder with a sample Quizlet set, and that's where this is living, this one here. And I got that from Miss Sarao, if I said her name correctly. So here's what it looks like. What you might see is all these tools over here. And on the learn is where you kind of get that flashcard feature, right? Where it's like, okay, what is that? So over here, I've got, oh, I'm zoomed in too hard. So you can say, oh man, you missed that one, right? Press any key to continue. And so it will go through and help you to study based on, so I'm supposed to find Colorado right here. I'm like, oh man, let's see. And then, yep, I got that one. So that's the learn feature. And again, it's showing you, it's kind of keeping track of how I'm doing as I go through. And so it says I've got two familiar. Oh, go ahead.
There was a question, and I'm pretty sure it's for Quizlet, I think.
Okay.
These have the option for you to read aloud the questions for those parents who won't log in while you're teaching?
Yeah, absolutely, right? So this one here, I've gone to the flashcard feature, not the learn feature. You can see,
Boise.
I don't know if you heard that, but I can click on
Boise.
that and it will read Boise. If I flip it over,
Idaho.
and then even in the options, you can go ahead and turn your audio on, and then it will do it automatically. I don't even have to click on it. So if I turn these on so that it is on every time.
Idaho.
See, I didn't even click anything that
Helena.
time. And now it's reading that. And that'll put I've typed this in for computer science work, and it will read, or at least to its best ability, it'll read anything you type in there. So even though here I've got that, again, it may not be the best pronunciation, and it certainly may not be to give it that Southern slang that we are accustomed to, but it will do that. So this is just, again, just that feature of the flashcards there.
And they asked, where is the create feature?
So I'm going to go back to the home here, and it says create a study set for any subject. So I could just hit that and it'll let me get started, right? And so just to kind of show you what that looks like. And again, I don't want to upgrade.
Sorry, his question was more directed towards Kahoot and a read aloud. So Kahoot, you can't read the question. There's not an auto, a voice recording option.
Yeah, let's jump over to that, right? So I don't believe, now there is a workaround, but it's not going to be for the reading the question. Here's one that I've got on Kahoot that I kind of just borrowed from someone else. But let's go into the edit. One of the functions you can do for Kahoot, and let's see where that question was here. Yeah, this one, is you can embed a video. Now, one way that you could theoretically get a workaround is to put that video in of you speaking or saying whatever it is. You'd be like, hey guys, your question right now is, and just say the question. And then the choices are still down here at the bottom. So that would be one way to kind of work around that. Of course, you can always put images in, and they have a free repository. And they also have a not free repository. So you can do that if you remove that picture. But anything that you get on your computer, you can also put in there. So if you've got the image as well, but your image library is separated. You do have to get to Kahoot Pro to see some of the cooler pictures. So.
And then we had another question, I think it's going back to the Quizlet, is can it be a voice only
Voice.
So instead of showing, like only have, I guess, their voice playing, like nothing written on the card.
Wow, yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that you can. The way the audio works in Quizlet is it's taking what's written or typed and it's reading that. So if you didn't put anything down, I don't think that there's a way to just natively record any audio. It's only taking what's typed. Let's see what we've got. We've got images and yeah, tons of image entry, but um, nothing for an audio. So no, you couldn't record that. You would have to type in what you were wanting it to say and then hit the kind of that text to speech.
And then the next question we had was, it's kind of about all that. Is there an ability to do these platforms in other languages, like Spanish or things like that?
Great question. I want to say at one point there was one in Quizlet, but and I'm going to see here, and they've been really working hard to kind of monetize this work, and so I'm just scanning through here. But I don't, off the top of my head, I am not thinking that. Oh, look, here it is right here. Quizlet with the extra has the voice recording, but I'm still not seeing anything about a translation. Oh, wait a minute. I can choose my own language. And that seems to be about it. So I guess my answer would be no. Not in Quizlet, not in Kahoot, and in Quizzes, I've never seen any translation option there. So that is a question, but I will double check and kind of see here. Yeah, I'm not seeing that. So that would be a great feature. I'm sorry, but that doesn't come natively. So yeah, that's a big drawback as far as our multi-language learners or English language learners as students there. The reason that I was pulling these up is these all, as we start looking at trying to assess kids in novel ways or in different ways virtually, remotely, there's going to be a whole lot of work that comes with that. It may not look like anything we've done before. And so having databases of questions and topics and tools available that are already done becomes really important. Even if you don't use it as written, like I pulled this one and just made some modifications, like true, false, this is a frog. And in this one, it's a second grade social studies one. Like, what does it mean to get a good citizen? I may not use all of these questions, but some of them may be great, and I can use some and pick and choose and get rid of others and not keep those. So as we get these databases of questions, in addition to Mastery Connect, this is a way to help lighten your load. And all of them allow you to save and share. So if I do want to run this with kids live over a Zoom, we can do that. If I want to let them run this on their own as practice with no grade or reporting, they can do that, or I can assign it as homework. And then the kids can actually, they will get that link and I will get data back from them. And all of these have a feature like that. They all have some way to share this with students and get that data back. Even Kahoot, which traditionally did not have that before, let me exit out of here. I'm not going to keep those changes. That did not used to have that feature, now seems to be going and adding some things. We've got virtual classrooms where you're playing it live, or let them play at their own pace, which is huge and not a feature that was traditionally available. So we can go ahead, it's going to view questions and answers on their own devices and just let them do that on their own.
There was a question. How do you see Quizlet for an assessment? Let's be real, we have to have grades. So how would you see it for an assessment?
So one way we can do that is if you send that out to the kids, there's a practice one over here that's a test. And what it'll do is take whatever was in your slides and allow you to have some options. This one allows you to do that, but you can see I've got multiple choice, I've got written, we've got some true, false, what have you. And so you've got some options down here that you can have to go along with that. And let's just see what this looks like. So yeah, I've got this and I've got here. And now at the end, and this is massive. Oh no, it's only 10. At the end of this, you can, when you go to print the answers, and I don't know if it'll let me do it without having answered all of them. Yeah, so you get your grade here, right? 0%. It will allow you to print this paper and pencil style, but what you, and it's kind of tough to self-report, right? Well, take a screenshot and turn that in, which is a little tough. But rather than use this tool to get the grades, I would use this tool for the practice. And then in ClassDojo, I would go ahead and maybe have on the, one of the assignments that I give, tell me what state this is, or what was the capital of this state, and allow them to respond with just that. Or if you wanted to get even more creative, say, hey, you know, tell me the names and capitals of 5 states, and the kids might just do that with a video response. So I don't know that I would use that tool for the for getting the grade, but it would help promote that assessment through practice and give them some other options. Hopefully that made sense and addressed the question.
There was another just general dojo question. I answered it, but I thought it was good to share. So someone asked, is there a way to pin a post? If we wanted to have a section with general information such as links, forms that we would want parents and students to have access to regularly, is there a way to have this always at the top so it doesn't get lost way down in the feed? I responded and just shared out, and you can show on Dojo if you want, is if you create an event, there's an event tab, you can put any links or any information that you want in the event description, and then just set your date range for like the whole school year or month to month. And then it will stay, for the parent, it stays pinned to the top, and to the teacher, it's on the side. But that's kind of my workaround to pin a post so then it doesn't get.
Perfect, yeah. And changing that date range was something I hadn't thought of, so that's a good idea. All right, so coming back in, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna skip this piece for the quiz style, but for right now, because we are over time. But I do want you to be thinking about that. And then, I really, really, really want to show this. So we'll have to think about that final question in another time. But for those of you who may or may not be familiar with hyperdocs, it's just a way of taking, well, here's a definition that's pretty good right here. Putting links and everything the kids need in that assignment, all embedded. And when these are done really well, they really allow for a high level of engagement. I've got a sample one here. And for Colleen, I don't know if you'd be able to, would you mind going into the, that's not on there. I was gonna say I'll share that link with you, but so we'll have to just do it this way. Because I did not put it into the slideshow, but I'll copy that and drop that into the chat. Okay, so hopefully that was good there. This one's an American Revolution one done by, I think it's Carly Mora. That's really well done. It's got a lot of different features embedded in this. And essentially at its most basic, she's got the work in here as well as the resources to complete the work. So for example, here is one that talks about the vocabulary. This is actually gives them a link to study their vocabulary, and then they're going to try and answer some questions on it right here, right? It says vocab progress, post screenshots of your progress and Quizlet. So as the kids click on here, it opens up the Quizlet one with their work and they practice, and then they can do that, put that screenshot there. On this one.
Hey, Arthur,
yeah.
The link posted, it's restricted access. Can you make anyone able to view it? They're having issues.
Oh yeah, because I think it was just Hamilton County, right? Let's change that to just everyone. All right, hopefully this one will work a little bit better. Keep coasting it on that. All right, let's try that one and see. And the previous link should be available now as well. So here is one where she's embedded some ideas for basically a digital breakout. Figuring out the locks, you've got your hints and the lock itself, and each of these takes you to, this one takes you to a doc, and this one to a Google form, I believe, on that. But as you go through, you can see there's a variety of context, content. She's got little notes to the teacher over here as well. As you click on this, you see I've got a social studies reference book there. I've got another article here. Here in the Stamp Act, I've got some ideas for how we can go into, I think this one's a Google Drawing, where you would go and respond there, and it will be linked to that. So some different ways to do that. And even here in the Boston Tea Party, we've got a little, what is that, Liberty's Kids insert to help with that. And then what were they doing to respond? There's been several sessions around making sure that you put things like this as a background image as opposed to in the front, so that the kids don't mess that up, but you put your boxes on top of that so that your content in the slide itself stays preserved no matter what happens on top. But just an idea, and I hate that I'm having to go through this so fast, because I do really feel like HyperDocs out of many of the tools we have really represent some strong level of Bloom's engagement possibilities for our kids when they're at home. So I would encourage you, and I'm going to go ahead and, Colleen, maybe if you wouldn't mind sharing a view-only version of this slideshow. It's got some links in here to some resources that they can get to, and it'll also remind them of the bit.ly address that we were ran over with. And so looking at, how to leverage some of these, and leveraging some of the expertise that you guys all have. A little unfortunate and a little behind, but being respectful of your time, it is almost 5 o'clock, and this is really only a 45-minute session. So I'm going to stop here, come back, and try to get some questions, what we have available for those who can stick around. And do remember that we do have this recorded. And I don't know if Colleen's had the opportunity already to throw the PD in there yet. We'll put that attendance link in there also.
Yeah, it is in there. I'll
Okay.
send it again.
Perfect. Okay, questions? They're like, dude, you talk too much and we're minds blown. Okay, let's see.
Arthur,
Yeah.
I think the biggest concern I have is, I'll be honest, where I come from, our kids don't have a lot of technology. And so we gave out all of our tech that we had to these kids, and they could barely use it. So these are all great ideas, but for first graders and second graders, I don't know that they could do most of it.
Yeah, and keep in mind, a lot of the things I showed on here were not just for K through 2, right? Particularly, and Sherry, the answer is 1 hour. But particularly as I was looking at that HyperDoc example that I just showed you, that's really 4th grade, right? So that's a higher level there. I think one of the best tools that we have that most kids have access to in their home is some type of paper and pencil, or paper and crayons, something, colored pencil, that you can ask those questions through ClassDojo. They can continue to practice that fine motor skills, the grip, the actual handwriting, respond on that, and then take a picture of it. I've seen 2- and 3-year-olds figure out how to use an iPad camera. And so on the Chromebook, it is definitely a little bit of a learning curve, but that may be the piece that you have to show them when you get them, that first 2 days or those first week, whatever. Show them how to make sure they can use that camera to turn in the work, to get pictures of the work, make sure that they're comfortable using that, even if they're using the video feature and holding their paper up for the teacher, that may be.
My kids did really good at taking a picture of the work I'd sent them. And I got quite a few videos. My portfolios were like really full. Like, I was really impressed with the kids who participated. I just, the actual assessment piece is really hard. And Colleen, I'd love to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, of course, dealing with kindergarten and in the other grades that I have taught in other schools that I've been in. So I that's where I started with utilizing the interactive Nearpod. So I don't know if you're scheduled to come to the session tomorrow, but if your kids were able to take a picture or to click on a link through your class story post or things, Nearpod's going to be that tool that you're going to really get the assessment on, because it's going to, as they're going through the lesson and as they're following on, listening to your videos of you reading or listening to whatever videos you share for them to learn, it's going to be taking that data for you as they can write on a worksheet or they can play a matching game. And it's going to make it very gamified and interactive. And I'm actually been using it in Camp K because I've been teaching it with the kindergartners. And as long as I get the link up for them, they can follow through with the PowerPoint on their own. So that's kind of how I plan on for this year to start, because all of our kids pretty much know either how to take a picture or a video, and they know how to click on a link. And I'm just going to build from there as I teach them. And when I can be in person and show them more, then I will. But as right now, I'm keeping it simple.
You like Nearpod better than Flipgrid?
Well, so actually Flipgrid is embedded into Nearpod. So you can put the whole tool into it all. So we're going to talk more tomorrow in that session. I won't show Flipgrid as much because there's been Flipgrid PDs, but it can be embedded in. So they can do all of that in one thing. It's kind of like just the mega house of everything.
Yeah, and
Yeah, last year it was overwhelmed, so I was trying to learn all this.
Yeah, I understand.
Nearpod's going to be one of the best tools available, and I intentionally didn't put that in mind because Colleen is diving deep into Nearpod, but it's worthwhile enough that it gets its own dedicated session. So that's really going to be.
If you have heard of Seesaw, I feel like it takes all the features that Seesaw had and puts it into Dojo just through a link. It's very interactive, and it collects that data for you. So it's going to be a really good tool to use whenever, if we're in blended learning, all at home, whatever phase we're in.
Okay, great. I used Seesaw before they put the portfolios on Dojo, so I'm familiar with that. Nearpod's just one I hadn't gotten to.
Yeah, I understand. There's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, gang, thanks again for coming. I know this was lengthy and unfortunately a bit incomplete, but hopefully what we'll do is I'll make some revisions for the Wednesday session and make that a little tighter. So if you are like, hey, I'll check out the Wednesday video, that may give you a little different feel or work for that. So good luck, and I will work on getting that uploaded.
Hey, Arthur,
Yeah.
this is Charlene. I sent you a message just now. I can't get